The R44 made by RCA, it was actually a 1930s design, and it was known as the microphone to have. So if you were a recording studio, a venue, or a soundstage, if you had one of those, you were the place to be. And if you had two of those, then, man, you really had it good. And RCA manufactured the 44 from 1932 until about 58 is where we think they stopped making them. And there was about a 20-year gap where they made other kinds of ribbon microphones using similar technology. And then in the 70s, they were shut down, the mic division, and they stopped making microphones. And at that point, my boss, Wes, he flew out to New Jersey, learned the ribboning process, and started working and servicing the old RCA microphones with an emphasis on the R44. So from the 70s until the 90s, we actually just serviced the mics. Nobody else was really doing it. Nobody else was really making parts. So in that 20-year period, we developed parts that were supposed to match the original ones. So if somebody's magnets broke off or somebody's transducer broke in an area, we should have the replacement parts to be able to service it and to fix it to how it was when the mic was first created. And then in '98, we actually started making our own version of the 44 with those replacement parts that we had built for 20 years. And so with our 44 and the RCA 44, they're almost identical in every single way down to the ribbon material. We even used new old stock ribbon material that Wes was given back in the 70s. So if you look at the two microphones, you'll be able to see that they're, almost every single part is interchangeable. There's only two major differences between the R44C by AEA and the R44 BX that RCA made, and both changes are changes that we made that we felt upgraded the microphone. So one was the yoke, which is the mounting device that holds it to a stand. RCA used to use zinc in their yoke. It was a cast zinc, and zinc is corrosive. When water gets into it, it can crack, it can break, like in an old car. What we decided to do, what we thought would be more sturdy, is use cast bronze. So as you can see between the two, they look identical even down to the types of screws that we use. The other major difference is that RCA used to use Alnico magnets, which are big, hard to cut, inconsistent, and we switched to neodymium, which is much more consistent, higher output, and less expensive. Even with the transformer cases, they're almost identical. They're extruded in the same way. RCA made many different versions of the 44, different colors, different emblems, different logos. So we chose the one that we liked the most, which was the black transformer case with the hand-polished ribs. And in the 44, the active one that we make called the A440, it's our premium version of the 44. We chose to go with the classic umber color. It's a grayish, goldish, brownish color that's extremely difficult to manufacture. In the R44 and all of our ribbon microphones, the heart of the microphone is the ribbon element itself. Every mic manufacturer, every microphone that's a ribbon mic has a ribbon, and every company has a way of doing it that really gives their mics their specific sound. So the way that we do our ribbons, specifically in the 44, is the same how RCA used to do it in their 44. And we even still use the same new old stock material that we were given back in the 70s. So with the 44 sound, there's nothing like that microphone. It gets bass build-up proximity effect from 6 feet away from the source. So if you want to sound huge, that's the mic to use. People call that the voice of God. And all of our microphones are based on that sound and that tonality because they use that ribbon. Even down to the corrugator that we use when we're ribboning is the same as the old RCA corrugator. When you look at the grill, they're identical in almost every way. We even use a press that's made to look identical to the old RCA one. So what we're looking at here is the transducer of an 84A. It's our own design that we make. It kind of looks like the old RCA 77, but It's actually more in line with the 44. Although it has the same ribbon as a 44, it has a similar characteristics in terms of the color and the sound, but what we've been able to do by changing the transducer shape and by adding different elements in front of it is we've been able to essentially temper the amount of bass response, add more top into it, so that it can be used in a multitude of more environments and different situations. So with the 44, I mentioned the voice of God. When you sing right into it, it boosts that bass. This gives you a little bit of that, but it allows you to use it in smaller studios, home studios, out on the road, at gigs. But what we were able to do is essentially take the technology from the R44 and shrink it. So that's why we have a smaller transducer that's thinner, and use neodymium magnets, which are more powerful than the older magnets, to get higher output than what you would have been able to get back in the 60s or 70s even. This is the inside of the A440, which is the active version of the R84, meaning that we actually have electronics inside of the microphone that don't give extra output, but it allows you the flexibility of using any preamp to still get the full potential out of your microphone. It's known that transformers add a ton of color or character to the sound of audio equipment, and one of the things that's great about ribbon microphones, specifically the AEA mics, is that every one of our microphones has a transformer in it. So with the active mics, like the A440, the 440, and the N22 and N8, they have a special transformer that gives more output. So the active microphones get 12 dB more output than a typical ribbon mic. Older passive ribbon mic designs require a ton of gain to be able to get to an operational level that would allow you to use it in a studio or live, or to be able to capture the full sound of the microphone, the natural source. So we make preamps that allow you to do that. But with microphones like the A4A or the Nuvos, they have built-in electronics that make them more preamp flexible. So you'd be able to use this with any old preamp, although the ribbon mic preamp still offers some benefits that can really bring out the true sound of it. So one of the things that sets us apart from other ribbon microphone companies and just from other ribbons in general is that we tune and tension our ribbons to a specific frequency that is lower than almost any other ribbon mic out there. We actually tension ours to 16.5 hertz, so below sub-frequencies, which is how RCA used to do it on their 44s way back in the day. And what's nice about that is ribbons, unlike condensers and other microphones, are resonant above their, linear above their resonant frequency, which means you don't get all that sibilance, all that tiz, all that exaggerated, hyped top end that can sometimes sound harsh from condensers. If anything, you would get a little bit of a bass boost depending on where that frequency is. But because ours is so low, that's why you're hearing, when you listen to an AEA mic, you hear a natural, organic sound. Because our ribbon tuning is so low at 16.5 hertz, it's one of the things that sets us apart from other ribbon mic companies. Most other ribbons, if you look back at some of the older ones, even the older RCAs in the 77s, some of them were tuned up at 40 hertz, 70 hertz, much higher. And that's one of the things that with the 44 and all of our other microphones that are figure of 8, at 16.5 hertz, they have an unmatched bass that's just incredible and can reproduce frequencies all the way back at the back of an orchestra. So that's where 44s really got their start, was they have what's called a treble to bass ratio, meaning from 20 feet away, meaning that you could stick a 44 at the back of an orchestra and capture the low end of an upright bass. So that actually became a standard, and still is to this day in the movie industry, where you'll have two 44s capturing strings left and right. And then people will take that same mic and croon into it from up close to emphasize the bass in their voice. Or in front of a kick drum is incredible because of the amount of oomph and bass that mic can capture.